It is a great honor and a privilege to introduce Berthe Badehi, and your maiden name was Elizane, and you were born in Lyon in France?
In France, yes, in 1932, quite a long time. My parents were from Poland, and they got to France. My father at a very early age, he was 14 when he got to France. He had two sisters, much older than he was, and he did run away from his father because his father was very, very, very religious, and he did run away from his father. And he got to France to his sisters in Lyon. Have you heard about Lyon? Okay, it's quite a big town. My mother was born in Calais, and she got to France in 1928 or 29. My father in 24. They met in France and they married. When they married, you know, my father became a communist. There were a lot of all those young people who, you know, who left Poland, Russia, Czechoslovakia. When they got to Western Europe, a lot of them became communists. They thought that communism will be the answer to the Jewish problem in Eastern Europe. This is it. And the two of them were communists and have been working very, very hard. And, you know, very soon they had their own business. And they were working very hard in the business and politics. And so I did have a grandmother, my mother's mother, came over to France, and she was the one to raise me.
Wow.
My parents were busy, so my grandmother has been the one to raise me. And the one to take care, to take me to school, to take me from school, to go with me to the cinema on Sundays, to go to everywhere. She was the one who did raise me. I can say, you see, that has been the problems, I think, with all those parents coming from Eastern Europe. They didn't know how to give love to children. They love children, but they never say, I love you. They never show the love. You see, all these people, because it's not only me. My parents, the children of my parents' friends, it's the same. You know, we never had parents taking you in their arms. I love you. It's something we never heard.
But your grandmother...
From my grandmother was much more tender. I was feeling from her much more tenderness than I did from my parents. Okay, my parents were people very busy, very, you know, honest people, very good people, working hard. My father very, very early had his own car. In 36 he's already bought his first car. So, okay, they wanted a good life. After what they've been going through when they were young, they wanted money, they wanted a good, you know, a house, they wanted the best for themselves and for their children too. Okay? And I say that the children, we were living by the parents and not with the parents. And that is what I do remember, even with the friends of my parents. The children were there, they were there by the parents.
And Berthe, did you have any siblings, any brothers or sisters?
No, I did have the sister after the war.
But only after the war?
After the war. You know, they were doing very few children. They didn't have the time to make a child and to raise a child. And they have been working very, very hard. You see, at the time, I say that they were not working 8 hours a day to make money. They could be working 20 hours a day, make money. No one was helping. They did everything by themselves.
And what type of work did your parents do?
They have been doing a lot of things, but after they opened a shop, pressing, you see, cleaning, a cleaning shop where, you know, they got clothes, you know, pants and the rest, and jacket
Like
to clean.
Dry cleaning?
Dry cleaning, and they managed quite well. My father bought the very very last of all the machines, you see, and he called his shop Pressing Américain, American one, because it was, you see, the most fancy and most new one. And of course, and they were involved in politics, of course. And when the war started in France, my parents, who were in that communist Jewish organization, that organization very soon learned that the Jews were in danger. In Paris, very soon, the French police, together with the German, were looking for communists. And when France was cut in two, with Maréchal Pétain, a lot of people, friends of my parents, from Paris came over because Lyon was in the southern part of France. And they were telling what was going in Paris, because at the time you couldn't learn from nowhere. And from her, what they were telling, I heard what was going on, that the German and the French police was looking for Jews. At the time, the Jews were arrested and sent to camps in France. But very soon they learned what has been going on in Poland, because in Poland already in 1941, Germans were killing the Jews. You see, at the time that it started with buses, put the people in buses and kill them with gas before they opened the camps. And so that organization managed to get more news through America, through, you know, the Joint in America got news from them, and it went through. And that organization very soon asked the parents, send your children to safe places because you are in danger, in order to at least if you are arrested, at least the children will be safe. And that's why already in 41, by the end of 41, my parents sent me to stay with that Christian family in the Alps. I knew I was a Jew. We were not religious, but I knew I was a Jew. Excuse me.
So, Berthe, your parents, you knew you were Jewish.
Yeah.
Did your mother light candles on Friday night? Were they traditional?
I don't think that we were traditional. We know they were part of Jewish organizations. Mm-hmm. We were speaking Yiddish at home with my grandmother. My grandmother was religious. She was wearing a shaitel, really? You see, and my father was buying special food for my grandmother. We were eating everything, but for my grandmother, she had a special place and she was doing her own food, and my father was buying kosher food, kosher meat for her.
Did they ever take you to...
They were not religious.
Did you ever go to synagogue?
No.
On Yom Kippur or...
No.
And did you have a Pesach?
No. For us, being a Jew was like the Catholic going, not all the Catholics are going to church. True. But they are Catholics. We were Jews with feelings, our feelings, speaking Yiddish, and very proud of being Jews. But that's it. That was the way we were.
Do you remember having a Pesach?
No. You see, I remember my grandmother preparing for Pesach for herself. You see, but for us it was a day like another day.
But they were Jewish inside.
But Jewish inside.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And when I was sent to that family, and I was sent there with a certificate that I'm a Christian for the family and for all the neighbors in order to protect me. And so when I arrived in that family, they received me very nicely. They knew I was a Jew, but you know, they knew that I need to be protected.
And when you went, do you remember saying goodbye to your grandmother, your mother and your father? Or did you just think you were going for a short time?
At first I thought I was going on sort of vacation.
Like a vacation.
I didn't know that it will last 2.5 years.
So you didn't know that you were going to be going for a long time?
You know, my parents told me, you have to go, and that's it. We were children when parents were saying something, that is the way we did. We never asked questions. That is, you do what your parents are telling you to do, and that's it.
And how did you go there? Did you go...
a friend took me by train. It was about a little more than 100 kilometers from Lyon, in the Alps.
In the southeast of France?
No, not south. It was closer to Geneva, in that part of the Alps, northern part of Alps. And from there, we got to a town called Aix-les-Bains, a very beautiful small city. Aix-les-Bains has been a spa since the Roman times. And by bus we did travel to that village, and then that friend took me to that family, and there was Madame Massonat, the lady. She was a widow, 3 children, a son, he was 20 at the time, a very handsome young man, and 2 girls. The son, his name was Marcel. I do. You see the pictures of him here.
He has
This
a
is
picture of
Marcel when he was 80.
And Madame...
And Marcel became very soon my big brother.
Wow.
You see, it has always been a dream of mine to have a big brother. He became my big brother.
And here you have a picture of...
And this is Madame Massona.
And she was very kind. She was very kind to you.
Yeah. She, you know, all the time I stay with them, I called her Madame Massona. I never called her another name. No aunt, no another name. She has been Madame Massona. But she gave me a lot of feelings. She was very, very nice to me. Very nice. I will not say she was a mother, but she was nice to me. And there was a son and 2 girls. And I can say that living with them has been more family, because everyone was speaking together. Not like at home, my parents were there, I didn't have anything to say. Here everyone was speaking.
And how old were the daughters?
Marcel was 20, there was a daughter 16, Francia, and one 12, Valentine. But Valentine was not there all the time, she was in a boarding school in Echleban. Her mother wanted for her to learn, not to be a farmer.
And so you were similar, how old were you? You were 11 at the time?
I was at the time 9, half past 9.
You were 9?
41.
41, you were 9.
And okay, when I learned that I have to be a Christian, I say, okay, I will play the part. You see, it seems to me, I don't remember exactly, but it seems to me that I saw that as playing a part. You know, children like to play. It seems to me that is what and I did play, I think, quite well. I went to school with all the children of the village, and I went to church. You know, the children are going to church, and I went to church with all the children. And okay, and I learned the prayers. I say that when I got there, I gave that certificate to the priest. I never knew if he believed me or not, but he never said a word about it. The people of the village, no one ever said a word. Everyone accepted me the way I say I am.
Did they ask how come you joined the family?
No one.
And did the 2 sisters and the brother, did they know that you were Jewish?
No, I don't know. I never asked, and they never say. They accepted me the way I say I am.
Nobody asked you?
No. But now let me tell you. In all those French villages, in front of the church, you have a monument of the French killed during the First World War. A lot of them. So for them, it was already fighting the German in some way. And they never say a word, but it seemed that it's like they cooperate.
And in your class, in your school, there were 2 other Jewish girls?
You see, okay, I was playing. I was a Jewish girl playing the Christian.
But did you know that there were two other Jewish girls?
Yeah, but you see, that was not something. Okay, I know it was the war. I know we are in a situation, a special situation. You go on. You know, it seemed that I did accept things the way they were. You do have to do that, and you do it. You don't ask questions. You don't try to make over your life. This is it. You have to do that. But at that time, in that part of France, and I think it's quite cold, no? That part of France was not under the German rule. That part of France, it was the Italians who were in charge of that part. From Switzerland down to the Mediterranean, close to the, they have been fighting together. So the German allowed then that part of France, the Italians were in charge. And the Italians haven't been looking for Jews. And so in that part of France, a lot of Jews have been, living all their area and trying to get to these parts because they thought that there they will be safe. There have been a lot of Jews there, and down to Nice on the Mediterranean. And okay, we knew about the war. There was a radio at home, so we knew about what was going on in Russia, and what was going on the war there, what was going on Pearl Harbor. You see the war in the Pacific, because we were hearing the news from London.
On the BBC?
Radio Londres. Ici, Londres. And every day we have been hearing the news from London. We had to be very careful, see, so that no one shall hear, because the police was, going around. It was forbidden, of course, but we knew that there was a war, what was going on. But what was going on with the Jews, we never knew. Because even in London, they never say about Auschwitz or the camps also. And that has been until 43, when Mussolini was killed. The German ousted the Italians from that part of France, and they got in that part of France. And when they got in, the situation became entirely different. Some of the Jews who were there in hiding in Aix-les-Bains left immediately Aix-les-Bains, and they came to stay in that village, Le Moncel. There was a small hotel. They thought that there they could be in hiding. But it seemed that someone in the village got to the police, because they could get money for that, denouncing that there were Jews in hiding there. And the German got there and arrested them, arrested the parents. And when the German arrested Jews, all the village immediately knew about it. I heard, of course, about it. Immediately, I was before feeling quite quiet. I'm a Christian among Christians. But then I understood that there are people who could tell, who could go and denounce you. And so it has been the period where the fear got in me, that someone may find out that I'm not a Christian, and that they can denounce me to the French police as a Jew. And it has been a long period of fear. From my parents, I was receiving letters and sending letters to my mother, you see. And I was living with the Masonat family, living with them, doing whatever they were doing, the works in the fields. I did like that very much. And I was feeling quite well, but with that fear inside after. And you know, in school, in that school, there have been some other children who have been taken to Christian family in that same village, and they were in the school together with me. I knew they were Jews. They probably knew I was a Jew. But we never asked one another, what is your real name? Where are you from? Where are your parents? The fear that someone may hear something did stop us. We were very aware that every word can be a danger. We were at the time 11, I was 11 at the time, 10, 11, 12, and already taking care of ourselves. And okay, the Masonat family, they have been wonderful for me. They gave me some sort of security, but I was afraid of other people, because it seemed that there has been someone in the village
who informed,
who was a danger. And you know, it's a small village. Everyone knew everyone. And what happened is, in 1944, May 1944, my mother, who hasn't seen me for such a long time, decided to come. It was very dangerous to travel, but she decided to come to see where I have been living all the time. She traveled by train, even if it was dangerous, there was no other way. She had forced paper. She managed to arrive and to stay with us for some time.
And can I ask, Berthe, when you saw your mother, when she came to see you, it's a few years you hadn't seen her.
Okay, I was very happy to see my mother.
Were you emoted? Did you hug each other? You emotional?
Okay. We kissed, we did, but okay, you know, we were people taking the days one after another. Very, maybe we never let our feelings come out. This is it. Here I am. that way, and that's it.
Did you ask your mother why she never came before, or you knew it was
It was dangerous.
too dangerous?
It was very dangerous.
And you understood it. You
she
understood
put her
it.
life in danger too.
Wow.
You know, the Germans were checking all the railways.
And you understood it, even at this young age.
Of course. I did have some idea. I didn't know exactly, but I knew that being a Jew is dangerous. And that is why we have to live and to tell that we are Christians. But the Masonat family knew I was a Jew, because when they was contacted, they were told, it's a Jewish child, do you agree to take a Jewish child? And they did agree to take me.
They put themselves in tremendous danger.
They did it. Like other people, a lot of French people did it.
Yeah.
And that is why they got the medal of Rightous Gentiles, because they put their lives in danger in order to help us.
And their family as well. Their
Yeah.
lives and their family's lives.
Their family as well. They could be arrested also.
And I think there were those that were arrested.
And what happened during this day, what I forgot to tell you, is that Maréchal Pétain, who has been the head of the French government, made agreements with the German that the young French men will be sent to Germany to work in the German factory instead of the German men who were in the army. That was called Service Travail Obligatoire, STO. There, after some time, they got permit to visit their families in France. A lot of them didn't return to Germany. They couldn't stay at home. The Germans were looking for them, the Gestapo. So they were making groups in the mountains and in the forests. And those groups were called the Maquis. And they have been fighting the German. And the German had been looking for these groups, because there had been some battles in that area, Le Vercors. And the Germans were looking for these young men to send them back to Germany or to arrest them. So my mother has been staying with us for a week or two, I don't remember. And one day she was with Madame Masonat in the kitchen. I will show you their house, the way to, you know, the big garden and a courtyard. They were in the kitchen, windows open, May, and suddenly they heard a car getting into the courtyard. There was, you know, the only cars driving around were all the German or the French police. Madame Masonat looked out and she saw two Germans coming out of the car. She immediately went out of the house, across the garden, and she managed to stop the German by the courtyard. At the time my mother was sitting in the kitchen. The German had been looking for one of these young men of the village. You know, in those villages a lot of people are cousins with the same family name. Marcel, there was with the same family name. Marcel at the time was 20. He was the right age. Madame Masonat explained to them that Marcel, being an orphan, was in charge of the farm. He was never sent to Germany. She managed to send them away. You see, if they would have come down and opened the door of the kitchen, if Madame Masonat wouldn't have had that second feeling of danger and gone toward them, and let them come down, open the door of the house, they would have found my mother sitting there in the kitchen. My mother was looking very Jewish, and when she was opening her mouth, she still had a terrible Jewish Polish accent. You know, an accent, you cannot get rid of it. The Gestapo, believe me, they knew exactly the way the Jews are looking. They could have been arresting people on the street. So the fact that Madame Massonat got to the Germans, she didn't let them come down. She saved my mother, and she saved me. You see, that old lady, very, very, very simple.
You seemed an amazing lady.
She had that second, in a second, the feeling of the danger. She immediately understood the danger we were in. And what she did, she saved us. You see, she didn't have to have an arm or total. The fact that going toward the German, not to let them come down, it saved us. And you see, that is my story.
And were you scared to walk outside the house that the Germans might see you?
I was on the first floor in my room at the time. I can tell you that immediately when the German left, she asked me to run to that other family to tell them that the Germans were looking for their son. I did run through the fields. There was no one there. They already heard through other people of the village that the Germans were there looking for their son. There was no one. But this is it. That is the way. And you see, on the moment I didn't understood how the danger, I didn't understood that much later. Because at the time I never knew at the time about the camps. I knew the Germans were arresting. I thought it was in prison. You know, my parents already knew, but you know, I haven't speaking about it with my mother about the camps. You know, she was there, we were speaking about things of every day, whatever the life around.
And did your parents, they must have been in hiding as well?
My parents, they have been fighting. They have been in groups who have been fighting the German. My father has been actively fighting, attacking. There were groups, communists, immigrants. There were Italians and Spain, from Spain and from many different countries, communist groups, and they were attacking German, killing German and stealing arms. They have been fighting.
And where was your grandmother?
My grandmother was sent to an aunt of mine who was in a very small village in the center of, and she has been there as if she is dead, and so that no one shall speak to her, and she was not speaking to anyone.
And she survived?
And that is the way she survived. And Lyon was liberated very shortly after, in September of the same year. And so my father came to take me back home.
And when you saw your father, was it also very emotional? You hadn't seen him for a few years.
Yeah.
And you remember that encounter? You remember?
Yeah, okay. You know, at that age you don't change so much. I was a little, a little taller, a little fatter, because, okay, I did find my father, and my parents had lost everything. You know that at the time Maréchal Pétain decided that all the Jews who had businesses, their businesses were taken from them. And that was even before the French police has been looking for the Jews too. So, okay, they have been in hiding and fighting. The two of them, they have been very courageous. They had a lot of friends who were killed in Lyon.
In Lyon?
Fighting, yeah. And, they lost everything, of course, their business and everything. And immediately they started to work in order to rebuild their lives. And I was sent to, it was still war. The war lasted until May 45, and that is in 44, September 44. I was taken to the high school. All my vacation, the vacation, I have been back to the Masonat family, spending all my vacation there.
So you always kept the connection?
No, the connection to that day. There will be, the great-grandchildren of Madame Masonat will be here in April. We, when we say thank you, it's thank you. With all our heart. And my father rebuilt his business. I have been working with my father. And I met a young Israeli who was a student in Lyon at the university, a very handsome young man. And I married him. And when he finished his studies, also my father wanted for him to come into the business. He said, no, I'm going back to Israel. And I say, I'm going to Israel. And I got here on the 4th of September 1956.
So here we have also, there's a picture which was in the Jerusalem Post with you and your husband,
Yeah.
Ben Sion.
In Lyon. Yeah.
And can I ask, what happened to your father's family in Poland and your mother's family?
No one was left. No one, nothing. No one.
No one. From your...
Not from my father's side, not my mother's side.
When did you first hear? Was this straight
My
after the war?
father had the two sisters in Lyon. The one he got to when he came from Poland. They have been arrested. My mother had a younger sister in Paris. She was arrested too.
And what happened?
So,
were they deported?
Deported, of course.
And they died. They were killed.
About 83,000 Jews in France had been deported. I say only because that is thanks to a lot of French people who did help the Jews. A lot. We owe a lot to French people who did help the Jews. About 2,000 and something came back.
Which is a very small percentage. But a lot were killed. A lot were taken to Auschwitz and...
Almost. We heard that my aunts, they barely managed to arrive to Auschwitz.
And when did you first hear this terrible news? Was it straight after the war that you got to hear what happened to the family in Poland?
You see, we never even, my parents traveled to Poland after the war to try to learn if someone is. The Jews there have been taken in like cattle. No one of either family was left.
It must have been terrible to...
Yeah, terrible. You see, it has been with the help of some Polish people, but this is it. But that is why we speak about 6 million. Only Poland is 3 million Jews. Only Poland. That was where there had been the biggest part of the Jewish community, Poland. And, okay, Poland, Hungary, Czechoslovakia, everywhere. This is it. Okay.
And can I just ask you, with when you came, when you decided with your husband that you want to come and live in Israel, I'm sure your parents wanted you to stay
for
in
my
France.
parents, you see, they were communists, and so not so much in love with Israel at the time. But I decided I wanted something different. I decided my older son was 1 year old when I arrived here, exactly 1 year old. And when I got here, I fall in love with Jerusalem. Jerusalem at the time was not what it is now. I don't know how long you are living here, but let me tell you, entirely different. All those new buildings, it's awful. They want to make New York here in Jerusalem. Jerusalem was provincial, my sort of love. I did love very much being in the country. I love nature, I love trees, I love, I'm not in love with big cities.
So you're living in a very nice, this is in the country,
yeah.
It's lovely.
And I say I got in love with Jerusalem. A few weeks after I got here, it was the Suez War.
In 56?
My father sent a telegram, come back quickly, there is money at the travel agency. I sent a telegram back, I'm here, I stay here. It was, okay, as a Jew, not religious, but as a Jew, I was feeling here something special.
It's so nice to hear. Did your parents come and visit you?
My parents came to visit later, but they came to live in Israel later. Yeah,
And
in 71.
Did they always remain communist, your parents?
Yeah.
They always were...
Yeah. Well, okay. No, in 52, my parents were not communist anymore. I don't know if you know about that history of... in Moscow, there have been trials against the Jewish doctors.
The doctors, yeah.
My father took his card, communist card, sent that back. I'm not a communist anymore.
It's because in 53, the whole...
52.
But
52.
in 53 there was the miracle of Purim. There was a whole...
Yeah.
And your father...
So my father decided the same way he has been doing everything You know, he decided he did it. He was not someone to think about things and to discuss and to say, a decision, and this is it. And to tell you the truth, I'm the same. When I decide something, that's it. That is what I have been doing all my life.
And all the years you kept connections with the family.
That's family.
It's beautiful. It's wonderful.
Yeah.
And this is the house?
That is the house, the garden, the house. That is
It's a beautiful part of France.
beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. In the Alps. The stairs inside. And the people. Oh, these are pictures from the time here when I was quite young people here.
I just show. Who is in the picture? In this picture?
It's the children of Madame Massonat with friends, with with me. Those pictures were taken at the time, I don't know, in 40, 46, 47, because I have been all the time going to them for vacation and spending a lot of time there. Oh, can you?
It's amazing.
Yeah. You see? And that is where, when we got there, with all the families,
this is so special.
along the years. This is for, I don't know, 50 years ago, about.
And this picture here, this is...
Here, let's see, who is here? That is Marcel Massonat. Marcel, that brother, with his wife and the children. With my children when we got there, because my children had been spending vacations there too.
It's so wonderful that you kept the connection, that you...
I tell you, the connection never was stopped. Never.
And can I ask...
I was yesterday speaking with one of the, the daughters-in-law, and...
how did you organize the Chasidei Umot Olam, the righteous?
When, I learned only when I got to Yad Vashem about the fact that you can ask the title of Chasidei Umot Olam.
Righteous amongst the nations.
And that is what I did immediately for Madame Massonat.
And she was alive when she got...
No, she was already, she passed away in the 60s. She was not young anymore. Yeah? And her husband was killed during the First World War. You see, so, and Marcel was born in the 20s about.
So you wrote something so beautiful. You once said that her name is in Yad Vashem as the righteous amongst the nations, but her place is really in my heart. And
yeah.
That's such a beautiful...
That is what I say. She is here. Thanks to her, I do my grandson. If not her, I wouldn't have been here. I owe her my life. You see that second of decision to go
out to
toward the German, not to let them come down.
She's a very courageous lady, a very special.
You see, that very simple lady she understood immediately the danger.
And can I just ask you, it's a very difficult question, but looking back, if you were put in her position and somebody asked you to look after a Christian child, knowing that your family is in danger, what would you do?
I don't know.
It's a very difficult question.
It's a very difficult, yeah. Very difficult decision.
Because you're putting your whole family, your
and there have been a lot of people who did it. A lot of people who did it. Because they could have been arrested together. And their families too.
And there were many that were arrested and the families were killed as well.
Yeah.
So Berthe, I want to ask you, what message, I know you at Yad Vashem, and you've been many, many years at Yad Vashem giving tours and explaining, but what message do you give to your own family, to the future generations?
You know, first, my family has been, they know the Masona. We have been there. He was there with his children. They come here. The friendship is there. And the fact that we have to be open to other people. For me, in Yad Vashem, I explain to the people who are those people, Hasidei Umot HaOlam. What I do explain. These are, you see, very, very simple people. Very simple people. But they did add something in their heart. They were good people, ready to help. And that is what we do have to remember. And, at the time they were saying, the French, anti-Semitism and so on. But there have been anti-Semitism. But there are also good people, and that is what we have to remember.
It's a wonderful, it's so true. So Berthe, I just want to thank you. It's such a wonderful message, and you're alive because of it. You are here.
Yeah.
So I just want to thank you. I'm just going to, if I can just thank you so much. So Berthe, I saw the article about you in the Jerusalem Post.
Yeah.
This was the most wonderful article about you when you went back to work at Yad Vashem.
Yeah.
And I kept this, and for me to be here with you today, it's the greatest honor and privilege.
Oh.
And I'm so grateful to you.
You see, okay, thank you very much.
It's been, not only your story, but you lived through miracles, really, and you came into contact with families that righteous amongst the nations. You're right. They were prepared to put their lives and the lives of their families on the line to save a total stranger. It's incredible if we think about it. It really is. It's remarkable, and it's so wonderful that you relate the story to people who come to Yad Vashem, and you've related it now.
No, but I think, you see, that at my age, though going to Yad Vashem, it's not always very easy, but it's important for me that people shall know.
Well, you are incredible.
Even people, here in that house, there are many people. I have been in contact with some of the people. Some ladies from America who have been living in some, in one part, I don't know which part of them. They didn't even knew anything about the war.
Sure.
About the Holocaust. They had to wait to be back, to be here in Israel in order to hear about it.
Well, I think you are...
One of them told me she was ashamed that she never knew about... she's not very young. She may be around 80. But as a child, she never heard about... no one ever spoke in the house about the war, about what happened.
Well, you are an example for all of us to emulate. You're amazing. And I'm so grateful to you. And you should just have mazel, and it was so lovely to see your grandchild, and you should just have all the blessings, and you should be well, in good health, and continue the most amazing and important work that you do.
Because for us it's very important that is our history.
It's our history, and you are really, you are an incredible person, and you must just continue in the very important work that you do. Thank you so much. I'm so grateful to you.
Thank you.
This is such a beautiful picture. And who is the photographer?
Martin, you have the name here in the book. He lives in America, and he makes exhibits of all sorts of, I think, that exhibit was 4 years ago, I think.
And the name of the book is Survivors.
Survivors.
Faces of Life After the Holocaust by Martin... Berthe, when you work in Yad Vashem, you're from all
I
over the
receive
world.
also, but usually the German coming in are not old people. There are new generation, second, third generation. And so I try to be with them the same as I am with anyone else. I tell my story, if they want. I tell about righteous Gentiles, but there have been German too, who have been righteous. So, everywhere you can find good people. You have to look for them.
It's so true.
You see, okay, there have been very bad people in the world, but there are good people too. And we don't have to desperate of new generation.
There's hope. There's
hope. I do hope for my great grandchildren. I want to be right to myself. When I say something, it's something that I think it's the good thing. I never try to do something wrong to anyone. Okay, there are some people I would like to, but that is something different.
But you've instilled these values in your children.
Because we have some feelings inside, but I never did anything. I don't remember doing anything wrong to anyone.
That's wonderful.
Or purposely. Maybe I did something which was not the right thing, but okay, it happens sometime, it could happen. But I try to be right with myself, with my feelings and with what I am. For me, Christian people are very good people. I appreciate very good. And when Christian people are coming to Yad Vashem and they are telling, I say, but we do have the same God. We only pray in different languages, and that's it. And this is it. This we have to to try to be right inside.
And Berthe, I'll just mention, my wife's aunt was saved in Rhode Island by a Muslim Turkish consul general. There were also Muslims that saved Jews during the Shoah that also put their lives. So there's good and bad in everywhere. And we just have to look more for the good.
Yeah. And they did it not for money, not for anything, only, because they were open people. And for Christian to help people, it was also something very important.
Thank you.
To help people in need.
Well, you're the living example of this. You're the living example. Thank you, Berthe. Thank you.
You're welcome.